From the glittering skyscrapers piercing the sky to endless rows of battered tents under crumbling overpasses, what happened to the American dream? In this journey, we break into the hidden corners of America's most iconic cities to uncover a reality few dare to face. Behind the shimmering facades lies a world of boarded-up businesses, the stench of decay hanging in the air and the haunting cries of the forgotten. Once thriving centers of culture, innovation, and commerce are now grappling with economic collapse, rampant crime, and a spiraling homeless crisis. Are these cities fighting for a second chance or tumbling into an abyss from which they can never return? Stay with us as we expose the shocking truth. Number 1. San Francisco. Tech exodus and urban decay. Our first stop takes us to San Francisco, a city that once stood as a glowing testament to human ambition and technological marvels. The Golden City, they called it, a place where dreams seemed to take flight, with the fog rolling in from the bay. But today, as we weave through its iconic hills and once thriving downtown streets, a different reality hits hard. According to the latest 2025 report from CBRE, nearly 35% of all office spaces in San Francisco now sit empty, the highest vacancy rate the city has ever seen. Where laughter and the hum of business once filled the air, there now lingers an unsettling silence, occasionally broken by the distant echo of a siren or the quiet shuffle of the unhoused moving between makeshift camps. Much of this shift can be traced back to the revolution in remote work companies that once anchored the local economy. Household names like Salesforce, Twitter, and Airbnb have either shrunk their physical offices or abandoned them altogether. The bustling energy that fueled cafes, corner stores, and small businesses has thinned out dramatically. Without the steady flow of daily workers, entire streets have started to feel like ghost towns. But the erosion goes deeper. San Francisco has also seen a sharp increase in organized retail theft, driving even major retail chains like Walgreens and Nordstrom to shutter multiple locations. Once vibrant shopping districts are now dotted with boarded-up windows and for lease signs, stark against the backdrop of gleaming glass towers that catch the California sun monuments to a prosperity that feels increasingly out of reach. The salty air, once refreshing off the bay, now carries a heavier scent, a bittersweet mix of sea breeze and the slow decay of neglected dreams. San Francisco's identity as a place of opportunity and innovation is under siege. It faces a critical question that looms larger with every passing month. Can it find a new path forward, embracing the changes while healing its wounds? Or are we witnessing the quiet collapse of an American icon slipping away, not with a crash, but with a long, weary sigh? Number 2. Baltimore. Dangerous bridges and decline. Now let's shift our gaze to Baltimore, a city where history clings to every cracked sidewalk and rusting bridge, whispering stories of a greatness that once was. Once a thriving harbor town, alive with the bustle of shipyards, markets, and working-class pride, Baltimore today paints a much different picture. According to the latest 2025 report by the American Society of Civil Engineers, nearly 24% of all bridges across the city are deemed structurally deficient, urgently needing repairs just to remain standing. Crossing these aging spans often feels less like a daily commute and more like a quiet wager against fate, as rusted beams groan under the weight of years and neglect. But Baltimore's troubles run far deeper than crumbling steel and weathered concrete. Over the past decade, the city's population has fallen by nearly 10%, according to census estimates. Neighborhoods that once pulsed with life now sit eerily silent. Rows of brick townhomes once lovingly maintained now stand abandoned, their windows shattered, their porches, sagging, their walls swallowed by ivy and time. The heavy scent of damp earth and mildew hangs in the air, mixing with the faint rustle of weeds reclaiming sidewalks that feet no longer tread. As you wander through these ghostly blocks, it is impossible not to feel a profound sense of loss. The sounds that once defined the city, the shouts of street vendors, the laughter of children chasing balls down narrow alleys, The cozy clatter of neighborhood diners have been replaced by the hollow sigh of the wind against boarded doors and empty stoops. Baltimore's battle today is not just about fixing roads or rebuilding bridges. It is about reclaiming its very soul. The decline of industry, the flight of capital, and years of disinvestment have hollowed out much of the city's foundation. And yet in the spaces between the ruins, sparks of defiance still glow. Community gardens spring up where factories once stood. Murals burst onto crumbling walls, splashing color across gray landscapes. Local activists and dreamers work tirelessly to stitch back together the fabric of neighborhoods torn apart by time. Baltimore may be battered, but it has not surrendered. Its story is not simply one of decay. It is also one of quiet resilience of voices rising once more from the cracks. Number 3. Seattle, housing crisis and lost dreams. Next, let's head north to Seattle, a city that once soared to dazzling heights of prosperity, only to find itself caught in the heavy turbulence of its own success. From the outside, Seattle still shimmers with the image of a modern American miracle. Towering glass buildings gleam under the misty Pacific Northwest sky, and the Space Needle still pierces the clouds like a promise to dreamers everywhere. This was the city where tech giants like Amazon and Microsoft transformed a quiet, rain-soaked port into a global economic powerhouse. But if you look closer past the glint of innovation, you will find deep cracks forming in the foundation. According to the 2025 Zillow Housing Report, the median price for a home in Seattle has now surged beyond $850,000. For countless residents, teachers, service workers, even young professionals, the idea of buying a home has become an elusive fantasy drifting farther out of reach, like a ferry swallowed by the endless gray fog. And it is not just the housing market that tells a tale of imbalance. Since the onset of the pandemic, nearly 40% of downtown's small businesses have shuttered for good. Vibrant coffee shops, quirky bookstores, family-owned restaurants. Once the beating heart of the city's neighborhoods now sit dark and abandon their windows papered over their doors, permanently locked. The hum of friendly conversation has been replaced by the hollow clatter of emptiness. Layered over this economic strain is a growing humanitarian crisis. As living costs spiral upward, homelessness has surged dramatically. Public parks and sidewalks have become dotted with tent encampments, makeshift cities within the city, where survival has become a daily struggle. The rich scent of freshly brewed coffee, once a signature of Seattle's mornings, now competes with the raw smells of hardship and desperation, hanging heavy in the damp air. Seattle's story today is a sobering reminder that unchecked growth, no matter how dazzling, can leave too many behind. A city built on dreams of innovation now stands at a crossroads. Will it find a way to reconnect prosperity with compassion, or will it continue drifting into a future where only the lucky few thrive? The answers to that question may define not just the future of Seattle, but the future of every city, chasing the shimmering promise of success. Number 4. Detroit, collapse and signs of hope. Now shifting gears, let's dive into Detroit, once the roaring heart of America's industrial power, now a city fighting to rewrite its story. Not so long ago, Detroit proudly rolled out almost 90% of all cars manufactured in the United States. The Motor City's factories roared day and night, fueling not just a local economy, but the dreams of an entire nation. But the dream did not last forever. In 2013, Detroit made headlines around the world when it filed for bankruptcy, drowning under a staggering debt of over $18 billion. The collapse was more than financial. It was deeply personal. Streets once alive with workers in coveralls and the steady rhythm of production lines fell silent. Entire neighborhoods emptied out, leaving behind block after block of abandoned homes, overgrown lots, and forgotten memories. The air itself seemed heavier, thick with a sense of something lost. But here is the thing about Detroit. It never truly gave up. In recent years, sparks of revival have started to glow. Midtown, a once struggling district, is now a living canvas, where vibrant murals splash color across crumbling walls and abandoned warehouses hum again, not with the sound of machines, but with music, art, and creativity. According to the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, art-driven revitalization projects have increased by nearly 30% since 2023, breathing hope into areas long thought beyond saving. Detroit's journey reminds us that even the darkest chapters can hold seeds of renewal. Beneath the ruins of an empire, a new spirit is quietly, stubbornly rising. Number 5. Portland, homeless crisis in a green city. Moving west, let's take a closer look at Portland, a city once celebrated as a green utopia, now struggling with a crisis it never saw coming. Known for its lush parks, bike-friendly streets, and progressive spirit, Portland built its identity around the dream of sustainable urban living. But behind the towering evergreens and solar panels, a much harsher reality is taking root. As of early 2025, the city reports nearly 6,000 people living without permanent shelter, a number that has more than doubled over the past decade, according to the Oregon Housing Alliance. Wander through downtown today, and you will see the contrast in full, heartbreaking view. Public parks, once filled with picnics and laughter, now resemble makeshift villages, their lawns covered with rows of tattered tents and improvised shelters beneath the iconic bridges that once symbolized Portland's connection and resilience. Entire encampments have sprung up, each telling a silent story of hardship and survival. The sweet scent of rain-soaked earth has given way to the bitter air of exhaustion and despair. It is a cruel irony, a city that tried so hard to be a model of environmental and social progress now finds itself overwhelmed by a human crisis it cannot contain. Rising housing costs, stagnant wages, and mental health struggles have created a perfect storm, leaving thousands stranded with nowhere to go. Despite millions poured into new initiatives, the streets tell a different story, one of widening gaps and frayed safety nets. Portland's green heart still beats, but it is beating under the weight of a growing emergency. The question is, can the city reclaim its promise of inclusivity and care, or will it continue to watch its ideals slip further away? Number 6. Philadelphia, poverty and the broken dream. Next, shifting our focus to the East Coast, we arrive in Philadelphia, a city built on the promise of liberty, now grappling with a much harsher reality. Philadelphia, home to the historic Liberty Bell and the signing of the Declaration of Independence, once symbolized the highest ideals of freedom and opportunity. But today, a different story plays out on its streets. As of early 2025, nearly 24% of Philadelphia's population lives below the poverty line, according to the United States Census Bureau. That means almost 1 in every 4 residents wakes up each morning unsure of how they will survive the day. The contrast between Philadelphia's past glory and present hardship is nowhere more painfully clear than in Kensington. Once a proud, working-class neighborhood, Kensington has now become ground zero for the nation's opioid crisis. Block after block, you will find sidewalks crowded with those battling addiction, some slumped against crumbling buildings, others wandering in a haze that never lifts. The air is thick with despair, and the rhythm of life here beats to the slow, relentless pulse of survival. It is a haunting image, just a few miles from Independence Hall, where ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness were enshrined. People now fight daily battles against poverty, addiction, and hopelessness. Efforts to revive these neighborhoods through outreach programs and police interventions have been overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the crisis. Philadelphia's story is a stark reminder that the fight for freedom does not end with words on parchment. It is an everyday struggle, fought not only with laws, but with compassion, investment, and community rebuilding. Number 7. Los Angeles, glamour versus Skid Row reality. Let's journey to the West Coast. Once again to a city known worldwide for its glitz, its glamour, and its dreams, Los Angeles. But if you peel back the sparkling surface, you will find a much darker reality hidden in the shadows. As of 2025, Los Angeles is grappling with a staggering crisis. Over 75,000 people are experiencing homelessness, according to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. That is more than the entire population of some small cities. Skid Row, just a stone's throw from the bright lights of downtown, has become an epicenter of despair, a place where tattered tents stretch for blocks and the air carries the weight of human suffering. Meanwhile, while tourists flock to the Walk of Fame and celebrities toast champagne in luxury hotels, the city government has been launching so-called cleanup campaigns. But critics argue that many of these efforts are timed suspiciously around major events like the Oscars or international summits aimed more at hiding the problem than solving it. The sparkle of Hollywood stands in brutal contrast to the harsh, unfiltered life on the streets just a few miles away. The irony could not be sharper in the City of Angels. The divide between the haves and the have-nots is as vast as the Pacific Ocean dreams are sold on every corner. Yet for tens of thousands, the dream has curdled into a daily fight for survival. Los Angeles forces us to ask the uncomfortable questions. What happens when a city becomes so focused on its image that it forgets its soul? Number 8. Chicago. Crime surge and silent exodus. Now heading into the heartland, let's take a closer look at Chicago, famously known as the Windy City, but lately it has been battling storms far beyond the weather. Once a symbol of grit, resilience, and unbreakable spirit, Chicago is now facing challenges that cut deep into its identity. Since the pandemic, violent crime rates have surged by nearly 30%, according to the Chicago Police Department's 2025 crime statistics report. Streets that once bustled with energy and life now carry an edge of tension, with many residents living in a constant state of unease. But the struggle does not stop at rising crime. Over the past decade, more than 80,000 residents have packed up and left the city, many citing safety concerns and skyrocketing costs of living. Entire neighborhoods that once thrived with block parties, family businesses, and tightly knit communities now echo with a strange and painful stillness. The hum of the city's soul feels fainter, as if Chicago itself is holding its breath, waiting for better days. And yet Chicago has always been a city that fights back, a city that rebuilt itself after the Great Fire, that birthed blues music from hardship, and that found hope in the toughest of times. The big question now is, can Chicago's indomitable spirit weather this new storm? Or is it facing a transformation it can no longer outrun? As we peel back the layers, it becomes clear that this is more than just numbers and headlines. It is a story of a city grappling with its very soul, a battle between fear and hope, between decline and resilience. Number 9. New York, two worlds under one sky. Next, let's make our way to the city that never sleeps, New York. But beyond the dazzling lights and towering skyscrapers, a different New York is quietly unfolding under the same sky. According to a 2025 report from the Coalition for the Homeless, over 60,000 people are living without shelter in New York City every single night. That is the equivalent of filling Madison Square Garden 3 times over, not with cheering fans, but with individuals simply trying to survive another bitter night. Beneath the shadows of luxury high-rises and glittering rooftop parties, thousands curl up in sleeping bags tucked against subway grates and alley walls invisible to the world just a few stories above. The financial district, once a symbol of unstoppable economic, might now feels eerily hollow. Since the remote work revolution, many gleaming office towers stand half-empty, casting long, lonely shadows over streets that used to pulse with energy. It is a jarring sight, rooftop bars buzzing with laughter and champagne toasts, while just steps away, a man pulls a tattered blanket tighter against the freezing wind. New York has always been a city of contrasts, rich and poor dreamers, and the defeated success stories and silent struggles. But today, that gap feels wider than ever. Despite billion-dollar developments and booming penthouses, the human cost of inequality plays out in plain sight, a daily contradiction that no amount of bright lights can hide. The question is, how long can a city built on dreams ignore the nightmares unfolding at its feet? Number 10, St. Louis, frozen in time and fighting back. Finally, we arrive at St. Louis, a city where history looms large, but progress seems painfully slow, like a clock whose hands have stopped moving. St. Louis, once a proud gateway to the American West, now struggles with one of the highest rates of violent deaths in the entire United States. According to the 2025 FBI crime report, the city recorded more than 60 violent deaths per 100,000 residents, a staggering figure that casts a heavy shadow over daily life. Safety is no longer a given in many neighborhoods. It is a cautious hope. But violence is just one layer of St. Louis's struggle. Half of the homes in the city's core now sit abandoned, their windows shattered, and front doors swinging in the wind. Streets that once echoed with the sounds of families and corner shops have fallen silent, as if the very heartbeat of the community has faded away. Walking through these areas feels like stepping into a living ghost town, a place stuck between what was and what might never be again. And yet, even in the middle of this quiet decay, there are sparks of resilience. Local artists have turned crumbling walls into vibrant murals, pouring color into neighborhoods starved for hope. Down by the riverfront, long-neglected warehouse districts are being slowly transformed into lively spaces with music venues, coffee shops, and farmers markets. According to the St. Louis Development Corporation redevelopment projects have increased by nearly 25% since 2023, signaling that the fight to bring St. Louis back to life is very much underway. Still, one burning question remains: can creativity and community revival truly thaw a city frozen by violence and abandonment? As our journey across these 10 American cities comes to a close, one thing is painfully clear behind the skyscrapers: the bustling streets and the promises of opportunity. A much deeper struggle is unfolding, a struggle that cuts to the heart of the American identity. We are witnessing a sharp rise in economic inequality. The wealthy grow wealthier, while the middle class and the working poor are increasingly pushed to the margins. Across downtowns once filled with hope and ambition, we now find luxury, high-rises towering over sprawling tent cities, a stark reminder that prosperity is not equally shared. At the same time, a housing crisis is gripping the nation. Soaring living costs have locked millions out of the housing market, pushing record numbers into homelessness. In cities that once symbolized stability and growth, finding a safe, affordable place to live has become a daily battle for survival. Public safety, too, is unraveling. As crime rates climb and once thriving neighborhoods hollow out, the sense of community that held these cities together is fraying at the seams. Many urban centers are no longer just struggling with economic hardship. They are facing a profound crisis of confidence. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all is the growing loss of faith in the American dream itself. That enduring belief that through hard work and determination, anyone could build a better life now feels distant, if not completely broken for millions. The cities we visited today, once vibrant beacons of opportunity, now stand at a crossroads. Will they find a path to renewal and rebirth? Or are we witnessing the slow, painful twilight of a dream once thought invincible? This is not just their story, it is ours. And so I leave you with a question. Are we watching the reshaping of America, or simply the end of an era? We would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever visited any of these cities? What changes did you see? Do you believe there is hope for a true revival? If you found today's exploration meaningful, please consider liking this video, subscribing to NVL Travel Documentary, and sharing it with others who care about the world behind the headlines. Your voice and curiosity help us keep these important conversations alive. Thank you for traveling with us today. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep looking deeper